Months after his mother's passing, Daniel sat in silent grief, the apartment echoing her absence. Rain mirrored his sorrow outside. The old landline's shrill ring startled him. An unknown number flashed on the caller ID, an unwelcome interruption. He answered, only to hear a familiar, gentle voice. "Daniel, my love. Just checking in. I miss you, darling." Daniel froze, a wave of confusion and bittersweet nostalgia. It was her voice, unmistakably, yet impossible. He tried calling back, disconnected. Days later, the same number again. He let it go to voicemail. Her soft whisper, "Daniel, I see you're working late. Your coffee's getting cold. Don't forget to eat." Daniel stared at his untouched coffee mug, still steaming. His heart hammered. Someone was watching him. The next message arrived at dusk. "That book on your oak desk? I always loved that story. Finish it, darling." Panic set in. He raced to the desk, the open book confirming her words. He frantically dialed again. Always disconnected. A cold dread, unlike any he'd felt, seeped into his bones. A distinct cold spot formed near the hallway, a pocket of icy air in his usually warm apartment. Later, his mother's framed photo on the mantelpiece was askew. He hadn't touched it, he was sure. Another voicemail, her voice now strained, distorted by static. "Daniel, he's here, near you, when you're alone." Daniel grabbed a heavy flashlight, sweeping its beam through every shadow, every corner. His breath hitched. A fleeting shadow, deeper than the others, detached from the wall at the edge of his vision, then vanished. The next message, guttural breathing. "He watches you, even when you sleep. Don't close your eyes." Sleep was impossible. Every shadow a threat, every sound a presence. He clutched his phone, terrified. A floorboard creaked upstairs. Daniel whirled, flashlight beam cutting the oppressive darkness. The phone vibrated, that number again. Daniel's heart hammered. The floorboard creak, the vibrating phone, a frantic drum. The unknown number burned, demanding attention. His hand trembled, pulling it out. The number glowed, malevolent. Upstairs, silence deafened, worse than sound. He had to know. He answered, ear pressed. Only static, a low hissing buzz, sucking air, making his skin crawl. Nothing else. His gaze shot upstairs, a gaping maw of darkness. Who? What? Questions amplified dread. He had to investigate. Against better judgment, primal urge seized him. Breath hitched. He took the first shaky step towards the dark ascent. The phone active, static, oppressive. Beneath the hiss, a faint, inaudible whisper. Imagination or real? Each stair creak felt like a gunshot. His flashlight beam danced erratically, betraying the tremor in his hand. Darkness at the landing deepened, consuming light. It felt ancient, heavy, full of unspoken, ominous things. He reached the top, paused, nerves screaming. Air was colder, carrying a faint, musty scent and something else. Beam cut through blackness, empty. Shadows played tricks, making furniture shapes appear and disappear. Then, a flicker. A door, barely ajar, not fully closed. His breath caught. It hadn't been like that. He moved slow, deliberate, each step a battle against his pounding heart. Static, a cruel reminder of unseen. He peered into the gap. Darkness, void. Pushing it open, beam revealed only oppressive blackness. nothing tangible. With desperate courage, Daniel stepped inside. Room was cold, colder than the hall. Dust motes danced in the cone. Light fell upon a small, faded rocking horse in the corner, vacant eyes staring. Antique, yet unsettlingly fresh. Then, a distinct click from behind him. Not a creak, but a sharp, mechanical snap. Close. Too close. Daniel froze, rigid, flashlight beam shaking. Heart leaped. He spun, light cutting through suffocating blackness. A shadow, impossibly tall, detached itself, moving with unnatural speed. Phone slipped, clattering. Static deafened him. The static wasn't just in his ears. It was in the air, a physical vibration that rattled his teeth. The world around him twisted, the familiar landscape dissolving into an inky abyss. The shadow, now a towering, featureless void, consumed the distant tree line, growing impossibly large. Its silence was more terrifying than any scream, a vacuum where sound should be. He stumbled backward, heart hammering against his ribs, every instinct screaming at him to run. His legs, heavy with dread, finally responded, propelling him into the shifting darkness. The ground beneath his feet was no longer solid earth, but a viscous, tar-like substance that pulled at his shoes. Each step a struggle against an invisible, consuming force. A guttural sound, not his own, echoed through the void, a low thrumming that resonated deep in his chest. He tripped, catching himself just before face-planting into the unseen goo. His breath hitched, ragged and shallow. The air grew impossibly cold, a glacial bite that pierced through his clothes, stealing the warmth from his very bones. He could feel its presence now, not just see its shadow. An immense, crushing pressure descended, as if the very atmosphere was being squeezed thin around him. The darkness intensified, swallowing the last vestiges of moonlight. He was blind, utterly disoriented, relying on primal fear to guide his desperate escape. A faint, sickly green light flickered in the distance, a macabre beacon that drew him in despite his terror. It pulsed, a distorted heartbeat in the void. He tried to call out, but his throat was dry, constricted by an invisible hand. Only a rasp escaped, swallowed instantly by the suffocating silence. The ground beneath him became uneven, sharp protrusions tearing at his soles. He was moving, but felt no closer to escaping the overwhelming dread. The green light flared, revealing grotesque, skeletal branches reaching out from the abyss. Not trees, but something far more ancient and malevolent. He saw glimpses now, distorted shapes in his peripheral vision, figures that dissolved as he tried to focus, shifting, ephemeral nightmares. Panic erupted, pure and unadulterated. He scrambled, tearing at the viscous ground, his hands slick with an unknown, cold residue. A low, guttural growl reverberated, shaking the ground. It was close, impossibly close. He could feel its hot, foul breath on his neck. He closed his eyes, squeezing them shut, trying to wish it all away. But the sound, the cold, the terror were all too real. A searing, agonizing pain tore through his arm, as if 1,000 needles had pierced his flesh. He cried out, a raw, primal scream. Then a sudden, violent yank, pulling him backward, deeper into the abyssal void, the green light receding, consumed by the encroaching darkness. The sudden, brutal yank was not merely a pull, but a violent relocation. He slammed against an unseen surface, the impact reverberating through his bones, knocking the breath from his lungs. Disoriented, he struggled to regain his bearings. The green light was gone entirely, replaced by an absolute, suffocating blackness. A heavy, damp air pressed in from all sides. Panic threatened to overwhelm him. He scrabbled with his hands, desperately searching for anything solid, any anchor in the void. His fingers met only slimy, cold stone. A low, guttural moan echoed from somewhere disturbingly close, vibrating through the very stone beneath his hand. It wasn't human. It wasn't anything he'd ever heard. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drum against the silence. Every nerve ending screamed, anticipating a horror he couldn't see, couldn't comprehend. Then, a faint, bioluminescent glow flickered into existence, not far from him. A sickly, pale blue, revealing nothing concrete, only amorphous, shifting shapes in the gloom. His breath hitched. The glow wasn't static. It moved, pulsating with an unnatural rhythm, like a monstrous deep-sea creature's internal organs slowly contracting and expanding. A sickeningly sweet metallic scent wafted past him, mingling with the damp earth, and something far more ancient, something rotten and alive all at once. He tried to push himself up, to crawl away, but his muscles felt sluggish, heavy, as if an invisible weight pinned him to the cold, slimy floor. The moan came again, closer this time, accompanied by a wet, dragging sound, like something enormous being pulled across a viscous surface. Dread solidified into ice in his veins. He squeezed his eyes shut, desperately wishing for the return of the green light, for the familiar agony of the surface. Anything but this profound, living darkness. A cold, clammy sensation brushed against his cheek. He flinched violently, snapping his eyes open, but saw nothing. It felt like something had just tasted the air near him. The pale blue light intensified briefly, revealing a grotesque skeletal appendage retracting into the shadows. Too thin, too long, tipped with wickedly sharp black claws. A choked gasp escaped his lips. He tried to scream, but only a dry, rattling sound emerged. This wasn't just a place of darkness. It was a lair. He thrashed, uselessly, against the unseen bonds or simply the crushing pressure of the deep. His every movement felt slow, arduous, as if he were submerged in treacle. The bioluminescence pulsed rhythmically now, almost steadily, revealing more of the vast chamber. Twisted, organic stalactites, dripping with an unknown viscous fluid. He realized with dawning horror that the stone he'd been leaning against wasn't stone at all. It was something else, something warm, yet inert, with a faint, steady pulse. He wasn't merely in a cave, he was inside something. And whatever it was waking up. The dragging sound resumed, right beside him, growing louder. The dragging sound intensified, a wet, guttural scraping right at his ear. The vibration traveled through the rock, through his very bones. It wasn't a rock scraping, but something organic, immense. He fumbled, heart hammering against his ribs, trying to orient himself in the absolute blackness. His hand slid over smooth, cold surfaces that felt less like stone and more like polished, chitinous shell. A low, resonant thrum began to fill the space,
a sound that started deep within the structure itself, growing, vibrating through the air and the ground.
Then, a tiny, almost imperceptible sliver of light appeared, not from above, but from a crack directly beside him. It was a faint, greenish luminescence. Through the crack, he saw it, a vast, pulsating membrane, like a grotesque, iridescent lung, contracting and expanding with a slow, deliberate rhythm. The cave wasn't a cave at all. It was the internal cavity of a living, breathing entity. And the dragging sound? It was the movement of its internal organs. He tried to push himself away from the pulsating wall, his mind screaming in primal terror. The air grew heavy, thick with a strange metallic scent. The low thrumming intensified, a deep, ominous heartbeat echoing through his very core. He wasn't just inside, he was being absorbed. He could feel a slight suction, a subtle pull on his clothes, his skin. The floor beneath him, previously stable, now felt unnervingly soft, yielding. Panic threatened to consume him entirely. He had to get out. He scanned the oppressive darkness for any sign of an exit, any crack, any hope.
A low, guttural churring sound resonated, much closer this time, directly above him. It wasn't just waking up, it was aware of him.
A viscous liquid dripped onto his forehead, cold and slick. He shuddered, wiping it away, his fingers coming back with a shimmering, bioluminescent residue. He looked up, a primal scream caught in his throat. Above, the cavern ceiling wasn't rock, but a sprawling, grotesque maw of razor-sharp, crystalline teeth. The jaws slowly, deliberately began to close, the crystalline teeth grinding with a sound that tore at his eardrums. He was in a living, crushing mouth. He stumbled back, tripping over unseen organic matter on the floor, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The pressure in the air increased, becoming suffocating. The walls around him started to constrict ever so slightly, the pulsating membrane pushing inwards, forcing him towards the center of the cavern. He slammed his fists against the yielding, fleshy wall, a desperate, futile attempt to escape. The creature merely hummed, a low, satisfied vibration. Then, from the depths of the floor, a single, enormous eye, golden and reptilian, slowly opened, fixed directly upon him. He was not alone. He was being watched and digested.